So I've got to ask, I mean, it's been one of those shows where there's been so much research going into this. How stressful has it been for you?
I mean, if you call like reading up and watching wrestling stressful, then it's quite stressful. But the fact that I'm on here, I think shows that I quite enjoy watching a bit of wrestling. So yeah, not too bad. Though you told me there were going to be an inspirational quote there from Triple H, and who was he inducting in Hall of Fame? Was that Shawn Michaels when he said that? I can't remember who he inducted.
I think it was, yes.
But because that's happened since we last spoke, that he's going in the Hall of Fame, and like I don't want to be really cynical, but they did the whole thing where it's like, oh, I can't believe the Undertaker's here. What? And Shawn's here as well. What? You want me to be in the Hall of Fame? Oh, I can't believe it. I'm so surprised. Oh, and by the way, on WWEshop.com right now, there's the Triple H Hall of Fame t-shirt. Like, come on.
I mean, the thing is, when you talk about the Hall of Fame thing, I mean, the biggest one for me, which is one of the best ones I like, is Lex Luger's going in.
Yeah, that's good. That's regardless of what you think of his work rate or whatever, like he, he's a significant player, and the Lex Express was a bit hit and miss, but yeah, he definitely deserves to be in there. Natural disasters as well. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, we'll talk about that obviously near the time, obviously WrestleMania. But Jim, we're talking about the champions of the UK.
Yeah.
It's like we said, I mean, we could talk about this for hours and hours, but the thing is, there's so many great champions in the UK, let's be honest.
There is, and there's so many promotions. Like obviously, I met you at a British independent show, the One PW, who are no longer with us for reasons we won't get into, but and that nobody's sure about. But yeah, since then I've sort of broadened my horizons a bit and been to a few different shows, and it's great to see all these different indie promotions going on, but it is hard to keep track of them all and keep track of, like you say, who's a champion where, and
it's just one of those things in it. Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest.
yeah, definitely, and you get a lot of the talent bleeds over from one promotion to another. So like I know we're going to talk about them towards the end of the show. We've got the two double champions who are champions in two promotions each. But then when I was looking into a lot of these people have met each other, and some of them have been allies with each other. Some of them have had matches against each other. Some of them are allies with certain people in certain promotions, but not in other ones. And I think that's quite fun, and I think that's always going to be the case. So we've not got like a territory system in the traditional sense. Like it's not a case that someone will have a run in, say, the Yorkshire territory, and then they'll move on to the Newcastle territory or whatever. So you do get people who are working different promotions simultaneously, but they're in different positions on the card in different promotions, or they're even working totally different gimmicks in different promotions. Like I saw Dara Diablo in True Grit, and he's your babyface challenger. He was fighting the current champion actually when I saw him. And he was sort of your babyface challenger in that. And then literally 2 minutes down the road, I saw him at a different promotion, and he's like a disciple as part of a religious cult or something, and he's a heel, and it's so interesting. But I suppose from their perspective, it must be quite fun. Like I get to play different characters, I get to try being a heel, I get to try being a face. It's all honing different skills, I suppose, as a performer, getting to do those different things.
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking about the champs in the UK and stuff like that. Jimmy, you ready to do this?
Absolutely.
Let's roll the intro. Ah, Haney, you're here finally.
Hello.
You all right, pal? Can you hear Haney?
Hello.
Ow! I think Haney, Jim, do you think he's having connection issues?
It looks that way.
Because he just messaged me saying that you were basically talking to yourself, and I'm like, why would I respond to myself?
I'm sure I heard John Cena's music. Or should I say John Cena's old music there? Because surely he's going to have new music soon.
Yeah, I guess so. Haney, I think you're having
Yeah,
your connection
Liam, you're
issues,
not
man.
on my screen. I can't see you.
But I can hear you fine. Jim, can you hear me and see me?
I can see both of you, yeah.
Haney, I think you're having
I can't
connection
see
issues.
or
You're
hear
in.
Liam. He's obviously got his cloaking device on.
Haney, do you want to come back in and out? Oh, this is what happens when you're live, guys, right?
This is it. It's all part of the fun. The show must go on.
Right, I'm going to just bump him backstage, just ask him to jump in and out and stuff like that. But, Jim, I mean, how's your week been, man?
My week's been pretty good. Yeah, I'm apart from getting obviously watching a lot of British independent wrestling. Mind, I've not spoken to you since the whole Netflix WWE moving on to Netflix, and like, obviously we love wrestling. We're on here, but there's a hell of a lot of wrestling to watch at the moment. Like, to try and squeeze it all in is absolutely crazy. Like that first week of January, I was like, I'm gonna watch it all. I'm gonna watch Raw. I'm gonna watch SmackDown. I'm gonna watch NXT. I'm gonna watch Dynamite. I'm gonna watch Collision, and that's just the main shows from the main promotions, And it's like that's a lot of wrestling.
Yeah, and the thing is now is one thing I like is like the pay-per-views are obviously on Netflix. So I mean, Annie, I don't know if you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear and see you now. Yeah, you're you've uncloaked.
Yeah, so we're just talking about obviously Netflix and stuff like that. I mean, we've obviously watched the shows live. I mean, it's a good blast. Let's be honest.
It is. It's good to be able to finally watch them again properly.
Yeah, and SmackDown last night, because it's in the tour in Europe, it was on at 7:00. That was great. Actually got to watch a WWE show live, and it 1 a.m. in the morning.
No, I mean, hey, we always watch them. I think, is it like 3, 4 o'clock we end up going to bed?
Yeah, it's insane.
But it's a good blast, though, let's be honest.
Yeah. But what was it? Back in the day, that my routine was like, what was it? For the pay-per-views, was that it was like, what was it? You would get up, you would watch Sunday Night Heat, and then it would go into the pay-per-views. It was just awesome. You would have your big bag of Doritos, your big tub of salsa, Dorito dip, and a big bottle of whatever variety of pop that you like, whether it be Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Iron Brew, or a combination,
or both.
Or both, yeah.
We used to go to pub and then watch them after pub and then see if we could stay awake long enough, to actually get to main event. Remember WrestleMania 19, I think Brock Lesnar's shooting star press woke us all up again at the end, though, because I felt that.
And that's the thing, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But the good thing is, I mean, like, Jim, I want to get your thoughts on this. Obviously, now with WWE on Netflix and stuff like that, everyone's got Netflix, so the audience they're going to reach out is like drastically, improved.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you're seeing a lot of people who it pops up on the Netflix and they go, "Oh, I used to watch that back in day. Let's have a look at that. Is there anybody I remember on it?" I mean, not many, but they really tried with that premiere episode, didn't they? Like, stick the Undertaker on there, get John Cena on there, get Hulk Hogan on there. That didn't work out, but never mind. And so they're trying to drop a few people to kind of hook you, but yeah, hopefully it'll mean people will discover it again. And like WWE's, regardless of what you think of the in-ring product, which I know it's not for everyone, but you look at the size of the crowds they're getting for Raws and SmackDowns, like it's on such a hot streak at the moment, and I think it's starting to actually seep into like wider popular culture now. Like I went to the cinema last weekend and there was a guy with a Roman Reigns t-shirt just walking out of the cinema, and it's the first time in I can't remember how long that I've seen like a wrestling t-shirt in the wild. You know, obviously you see them when you go to events, but during the Attitude Era, you quite often you'd see a DX t-shirt or an Austin t-shirt just out and about. But yeah, someone had an OTC t-shirt, which I can't remember last time I just saw one randomly.
I mean, we've obviously been watching obviously the pay-per-views live and stuff like that. What's your thoughts now? Because obviously it's been on Netflix since January.
Yeah, it's good. I like the pacing of the WWE sort of pay-per-view PLEs as well. It was because you've got 5 matches, you know you were going to get. You know you're not going to have to deal with a lot of faff. You know, but it was and you know you're not going to have to watch the same shite every match as well. But was the wrestling match? Like some would say the wrestling match is different, and would say like other companies like EEW have like they put on these so-called dream matches. You know, it's like these so-called dream matches happened like in like tons of promotions before EEW even existed. You know, and having to sit through like 200 matches to get to the main event, just what was it? It's just not something I want to do, you know. It's like, especially,
yeah, it is. Isn't it?
Sorry,
continue, Alex.
Yeah, and it was something I hated about the WWE when they used to do the WrestleManias and they used to be like 6 hours long, you know. But was it? I don't want to sit up for 6 hours and watch wrestling.
Was it 37 that was like, if you watched the pre-show WrestleMania 37, I think it were about 7 hours if you watched the whole.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, some people conceived and had a baby in that pit.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, you make a fair point about AEW, like, having to sit through 100 matches to get to the main event. But the good thing about Revolution last weekend was that you could sit through the 100 matches and then just turn the main event off because it was not a good main event whatsoever. So at least they did you a favor that time. But fortunately, the rest of the card was pretty good. But yeah, I agree with you, like, the keeping it a fairly condensed card, and everything has a purpose, has meaning, and like the Elimination Chamber, obviously the show closing angle was just phenomenal. That's like a generational moment. I think that's one that will be talked about like forever, and obviously they can't do that every month, but it made for some really good TV.
You need years of working to sort of do that, but that's the difference. What was it? People will remember WWE Elimination Chamber because of that moment. And we've talked about it before, Liam. What was it? Not very many people will remember what happened in AEW Revolution because there was nothing to me personally. There was nothing stand out there. You know,
to a certain to be fair, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do agree with you to a certain extent. There is a couple of matches which I enjoyed. I mean, I enjoyed obviously Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, the cage match. The Mariah May, Tony Storm match, but then that got overshadowed by that last from Queen in the Ring thing. I can't remember, is that the comment? What was it?
Yeah. But I mean, to me, in my personal preference of wrestling, both the sort of Will Ospreay, Fletcher, and Mariah May, Tony Storm match were shit. You know, because what was it? Because they've done it to death. You know, they're beating that drum, and you know what's going to happen. It's not wrestling. You know, it's like just hot shooting. What was it? Like just hot shooting sort of angles into like multiple events. You know, they had more fucking fake false finishes than the WWE's had in the last 5 years. you know, in the three matches. And as you say, then you've got John Moxley and but was Adam Copeland who, from the sounds of it, but was the reason Christian was wrote into that is because both of them refused to drop the belt or drop the win to the other guy, you know. But what was it? It's just
Well, the main event was terrible, but I do disagree with you on the rest of it. I thought it was awesome.
yeah.
But
I mean,
it's what style you enjoy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I'm just expressing my opinion,
of course, yeah.
and I'm not going to be a hypocrite and then suddenly say that I start to I like these things. This is, I mean, this opinion sort of transcends. If you speak to people that know me, this opinion sort of transcends. But was even EW. To me, what they're doing, they matches aren't wrestling. There's nothing wrestling about them. You know, that it's pandering to people that it panders to the people that like that sort of thing, and it basically, but was it the people that hate it, like are vocal about it as well, you know, and it's the wrong way. Whereas the WWE do things a bit more slowly, and what was it, methodically, and what was it, what do you call it, sort of, what was it, with a bit more common sense. Yeah, it can be dull and slow at times, you know, and boring. But you're not overstimulating what you're trying to do in a match when you've got what was it, somebody that's doing like every finisher under the sun, and they're just kicking out one after the other. They're fucking bleeding. What was it, from everywhere, you know, and they're not selling it. It totally takes me out. It takes me totally out of what's
Yeah,
going
I
on
can
in
get
wrestling.
that.
You know,
I see where you're coming from, man. I feel like what you're getting at is like
it's
a lot of AEW matches are like too fast paced all the time.
Yeah, it's pandering to a style that, not like, if you go to a live event, it's cool to see, you know, but not every week. And there's nothing memorable. User all like there's nothing memorable about it, you know. I mean, you can talk about it now because it's in recent memory, but if we were to have this conversation in 6 months, it was, no offense, but most people wouldn't be able to recall what happened. They would remember there was a cage match, and they would remember there was but they wouldn't remember the moments and the spots, you know, because there's to me there's nothing there. If you do too much, you know, less is more, you know. What was it? And that's not just an EW thing. The WWE's had periods of this as well, where they just do stupid stuff, you know, but wrestling's all about specific moments, and more often than not, the things you remember in wrestling aren't about what happens in a wrestling match. They're the moments, or the significant moments in the storytelling, like the John Cena thing, or like Hulk Hogan. What was it? Like, even there's a perfect example. Most people couldn't tell you what the card was in Bash at the Beach. You could tell you what Bash at the Beach '96 was, and how much history it is relevant to it has relevance to what was it, wrestling, you know. But they couldn't tell you what the rest of the card was, you know. What was it, because wrestling is wrestling, and that's what EEW is missing out on, is that casual fan being able to go in and see something in what was it, and go away and remember it, you know. All they go away with, like, oh, that was quite bloody, you know. That was they've got no sort of context about what led up to that, you know. What was and things like that. For me personally, anyway, you know, I don't enjoy a Kenny Omega or a Will Ospreay match, because to me that's not wrestling. You know, there's no psychology in the match. It's basically about just getting off your moves and then getting to the finish once you've done all your moves. You know,
Yeah.
It was Toni Storm is a fantastic wrestler, but ever since she's done the timeless Toni Storm, to me, amazing gimmick, but her wrestling ability, or what she's willing to put in the ring, is way down considering what she used to be. You know, I used to watch Tori in was it Stardom and things like that, and she's phenomenal. Same with Mariah May. You know, Mariah May is phenomenal for the short amount of time she was there before she went to EW. I was shouting about Mariah May on the, what was it, the platforms before a lot of people even sort of heard who she was, you know.
Andy, I don't mean to interrupt you, mate, but obviously we've still
Yeah.
got quite a few things to get to in the main event.
Yeah, sorry, you got me on a rant there. You know my thing. You know, yeah.
No, that's
I
fine.
and it's not about picking anybody's opinion apart or anything. It's just I'm very vocal about it. You know.
No, it's fine. At the end of the day, mate, you're entitled to your opinion. Do you know what I mean? That's why we just left you to it. But we need to move on because we've got loads of stuff to get through.
No, definitely. Plus, I'm Scottish and I'm always right.
Right, so we'll shift focus obviously to WWE now. And Jim, I don't know if you saw this, but NXT 2 titles got unified.
Yes. Yeah, are they unified or are they going to be defended like individually? I've heard talk that maybe she's going to do 2 matches and maybe the story will be the first match wears her out and then that's why she can drop one of the belts in the second match. I don't know. I mean, I'm always for unifying belts because there's way too many belts floating about in every promotion, it seems. So if they do stick to it, great. But I don't see it. I think they'll be separated again.
I don't think that they are either because they're essentially 2 new belts. Essentially, anyway, you know, they're in recent memory. You know, they were sort of created, and from what I understand as well, is Julia was carrying a sort of injury.
Yeah, I heard
and that's
that.
the reason. That's the reason why. I've heard rumours that it's a short-term thing, but they needed to get the belt off her to. And I've also heard that it's a long-term thing, and she might be out for. But was it an extended period of time? I hope not. You know, but
and the NXT women's division as well is one of, if not the most robust women's division. So it wouldn't, if any of them, it's the one that can most justify a secondary singles title. So I wouldn't get rid of that one necessarily. Whereas the Intercontinental and US women's titles on the main roster, I mean, I know they're still fairly new, but they're not doing a lot with them at the minute. They made a big hoo-ha of inaugurating the champions, but then they've just kind of been a prop since then. But, you know, there's a long road to go for them.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, one thing we know about Vakira as well, I mean, she's really on the rise and stuff like that. And I always remember, if you listen to the Busted Open thing, she obviously went to NXT, one, to obviously learn, but also learn English as well, which you've got to give her credit for that.
Yeah, and what was it? And that's obviously important as well because what was it? You know, selfishly, the sort of what was it? The sort of Western crowd, as you call it, or you could call it a North American crowd, do want that. We talked about it last week. I'm a big advocate of letting people speak their native tongue. You know, and if you want to invest in the character, you know, put the subtitles in. You want to invest in the character and have them speak in their native tongue so that they can get the inflection and because more often than not, people what was it? I mean, I'm speaking to people because of my speech issues, but more often than not, people will pick up and mock and particularly when it's something like the internet, they clip them and all that. I mean, they say stuff. It sounds silly or it doesn't sound. It almost becomes like a botch, you know. But it's amazing that she's wanting to do that, you know. But truly, I do think that these promos, like these wrestlers, should be cutting the promos in their own sort of language. You know, I think that it tells a story, and you lose an emotion when they're out there, and you can tell when these women are out there and these men are out there, and it's not their native language. You know. They're so focused on getting the words out there in the promo, you know, there's almost a panic about them sometimes.
I guess. I mean, Jim, anything to add on that?
No, I mean, I think you make a good point. Like, I think when it's not necessarily your first language, unless you're completely fluent, like someone like Kevin Owens' English isn't his first language, but you wouldn't know it. But yeah, if it isn't your native language, the concentration is on getting the words right, and it's harder to put the emotion and the infliction and everything else in there. It's like recently I went to see a Shakespeare play, The Tempest, because it had Sigourney Weaver was in the main role, and it's a bit like that with actors doing Shakespeare. Like if they're not familiar with it and they haven't done Shakespeare before, you can tell that all the acting muscles are going into how do I say these unusual words. Whereas you see other actors who are used to it and more familiar with it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see that they're putting their acting into it because it flows naturally to them. So I think it's a bit of that. It's if they're comfortable in English and it isn't the first language, great. But otherwise, as you say, why not do it in your original language? And I think we are seeing more of that recently. Like Penta cut his first promo largely in Spanish, and Grande Americano, when he turned up on Raw this week, said gracias, and that was all he said. And obviously, he's clearly a native Spaniard, native Mexican guy, and not Chad Gable. So
yeah, I mean something we just need Juan Cena to turn up now, and we'll have the thing. But what was it? What was it? I mean, Penta's a good example of like that makes sense to me in terms of it. Like the WWE, they claim to be sort of like a sort of world, sort of global organization, but really they're based in America, and a huge portion of the American population are Hispanic. And what was it? Within the next, I would say, probably 50 to 100 years, it's probably going to be the most dominant sort of. What was it? The Hispanic sort of people are probably going to populate America more than sort of like the European side of things, So it's going to be more and more, and I think particularly on that sort of like that side as well, like your California and LA and things like that, it really works, and because it's amazing to just see the culture there as well. These characters have got so much culture that like your cookie cutter sort of American doesn't have, because they have got that background.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely. We've got
WWE's
one more.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say WWE's been chasing the sort of Latin America market for years. Obviously, Rey Mysterio's always been a huge success, but every other time they've tried, like with Alberto Del Rio and what he called Sin Cara, they've just never quite found that crossover appeal that they do seem to be getting it a bit more now.
Yeah, I think in the next few years you'll see that. Like for me, like Dominic Mysterio is probably going to be one of the biggest baby faces ever in the WWE once that takes off. Just I know that sounds like far fetched to say, but I did say John Cena was going to turn heel this year, so
he did. And you know something, I didn't believe him, and he proved me wrong. Oh dear. So one final thing to talk about, guys, before we head into the main event. Obviously, SmackDown was yesterday. Jim, we saw 2 vignettes. Now, one we know is going to be Rey Fénix, but the other one's got a lot of people talking. What do we reckon?
I don't know. I mean, at first I thought, are they both Rey Fénix? But yeah, maybe it's Malachi Black, Aleister Black, whatever they're going to cut. But then there's been rumors that Jeff Cobb's signed as well. That it maybe be a bit early. Was it the number 4?
Yes.
Which makes me think, is it something to do with the Wyatt 6 just because of the number? But that wouldn't make a lot of sense. They'd have had to have sacked 2 of them. Or maybe is it going to be a weekly countdown to something? Yeah, if I had to put my money on it, I'd go with Aleister Black because they like to do. He's a sort of spooky kind of character, and it's a bit of a spooky vignette. So I'd go either that or the return of the Wyatt 6 to TV. So I think Bo Dallas is cleared or is on the verge of being cleared now.
Okay.
For me, you don't want too many sort of like. Again, but was it doing these in both in the sort of show? It was interesting, on the same show, 2 different vignettes. But was it? Of course, if it was Alistair's, what was it? Black is European. But it was so he spent a lot of time in the UK as Tommy Ends, you know. So, but was could it be that he's going to appear in the next? Well, I mean, 4 days. Roz in what was it, Brussels?
Oh yeah,
you know,
good point.
When they sort of did it, so something like that, you know. So yeah.
Interesting. I'm just looking now at my calendar. It could be absolutely anything. I guess this is just one of those things where we're just gonna have to see how it plays out.
I mean, if you're doing I know, I don't want the guys to be out of work for long or anything, but I'd be very concerned if they wanted to bring someone in before WrestleMania. Like we're in the run to WrestleMania now, and I would think that debuting now, it's either they're gonna fast track you onto the card, and then somebody's gonna be pissed off because you're taking their spot, or they're just not going to have time for the build-up. So I hope if it is a return or a debut, maybe wait until after Mania, unless it's Phoenix and you're going to have Lucha Brothers versus New Day at WrestleMania, which I could see that happening.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? It comes back to this thing I was saying about what was it, EW? What was it 10, 20 minutes ago?
Don't get you on a Danny.
Less is more. Fuck the Young Bucks.
And on that bombshell, let's get into the main event, shall we?
The main event.
I was just trying to stop Haney from going on a massive rant. Otherwise, we'd be here till 12 o'clock.
When have I ever ranted?
Do you want me to answer that honestly?
Yes, go on.
Every time we talk about AEW.
Okay.
Have I got a point there?
No.
Well, we're not talking about the Young Bucks today. We're talking about the champs of the UK, Haney.
Yes, I know.
You need to be on your best behaviour. Are you upset? Has there something happened and we don't know about?
No.
Oh dear. So Jim, obviously I mentioned the show idea about the champs of the UK, and we put obviously a list together, done a lot of research and stuff. Any, how did your research go for this?
It went not bad, as they say in Scotland.
Okay. So I'll explain obviously how it's going to happen. So we've got, like I said, a selection obviously of wrestling champions from the UK. We've got 2 dual champions at the end, which we'll obviously discuss. And yeah, just basically show some love to the champions. You ready, Jim?
Yeah.
So first off, let's start off with, these are in no particular order. We're going to start off with infamous champion Isaac North. I mean, Jim, I love this character. Do you know what I mean? Massive person and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm just looking at the thing now. He won it at Infamous. That escalated quickly in 2024. He's had a lot of hardcore rules matches in this. I mean, what did you find out about Isaac North?
Yeah, he's, first of all, like you said, he's got an awesome look to him. Like, he's big, he's really tall, but he's also very, very lean. So his physicality in the ring is something a little bit different. Like, he's not an out-and-out powerhouse. He's not an out-and-out giant. He's sort of somewhere in between that. And then he sort of augments that with the makeup, which has evolved over his career. And at the moment, it's this almost sort of the half Marilyn Manson, half Heath Ledger's Joker kind of look that he's got. And his style is, he's got kind of a hard-hitting style. Like, he's got really kind of power moves, but he's also got that thing where I saw him do a plancher over the ropes, so he can adapt how he works. And I watched a bit of a match, I think it was a 4-way, where he was just knocking the hell out of Wing Commander Nash that we interviewed a while back. and which is quite the contrasting styles. You've got Wing doing his comedy sort of stuff, and then you've got this monster. What I struggled with working out is whether Isaac North's meant to be a heel or a face. Like, he seems to get a mixed reaction, and I don't know whether he's intentionally kind of playing a bit of a tweener role, but you could see him having like a full-on kind of monster babyface run, like almost sort of when The Undertaker first turned face. Like, no one expected it. He seemed like he was going to be a heel, but then he was face for about 10 years after that. So this feels like a guy that could really get a massive following behind him.
Absolutely. Haney, what did you find out about Isaac North?
Yeah, quite a bit. The sort of same. So what was it? Obviously, what was it? He's quite a tall chap. He's about 6'6", 6'5". You know, so he's got a presence. You know, but was it? Which is oddly, what was it? It's become a rarity in wrestling now because it's a lot of young, smaller guys that are in that ring now. You know, what was it? Doing all that high flying gymnastics. What was it? What was it? You know, so what was it? Apparently, what was it? He's known as the Wrath of the Wargrave or something like that. That was his, I suppose, supposed nickname that I picked up on as well. So, but a lot of the same sort of same things. His signature moves is a dead drop, it was a dead leg, and a mandible breaker. So what was it? He's quite a versatile guy for a big guy as well, you know. But was it? He's got that technical ability as well as that, just being able to just go in and like just sort of dominate and like cause destruction, which is really cool. It's a really cool sort of thing to have, you know. So particularly with the style he does and the sort of hardcore element of it, you know.
He's incredible and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? I'm a massive fan, obviously, Isaac North. Go check him out. Go check out Infamous as well. That's obviously the champion. He's there. Now we'll move on, obviously, because we've got quite a lot to get through. Now, Jim, you'll be able to pipe up on a lot of this one because I know you know this person pretty well. It's, of course, the True Grit Women's Champion, Rio. So she won that the True Grit Games in 2023. Team leader, obviously, in Serico, defeated Ivy, been in the ring with Lana Austin quite a few times, Lucy Sky. So she's been in the ring with quite a few people at True Grit.
She has, yeah, and she's incredibly popular in True Grit. She was at I've seen quite a few True Grit shows now, but I think she was in the first match on the first show that I saw. And yeah, she's incredibly over as a babyface. She's really, really good at the selling and then the heroic babyface comeback. She carries herself really, really well in the ring. She's been going a while now as well. Like she looks young, but she is young. But she debuted 2016, and she's wrestled for ICW. She's wrestled for Progress. So she does a lot of different promotions. She won the title from Ivy, who I think we'll probably talk about as well when we talk about Brady Phillips later. But Ivy's was a great, she's retired now, I believe, but she's a great heel character and perfect sort of foil for Rio. And one thing about Rio is she isn't afraid to mix it up with the men either. Like I saw her win a Royal Rumble, which was an intergender Royal Rumble, and the fact that they booked her to win out of all the men as well, you know, that shows a lot of faith in her and shows that it's accepted, shows how well over she is with everyone. But she's actually got an upcoming match against Brady Phillips. They're doing a champion versus champion match, which again, I think speaks to how over she is with the fans, but also her level of skill, that you can have your male champion versus your female champion and people not immediately say, oh, well, it's obvious he's going to win. That shows the level that she's working at. So I'm really hoping I can make that one live. But I'm going to have a word with True Grit because they just keep scheduling it wrong for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the thing is, right, and I'll get Amy's thoughts in a minute. And like you said, that Rio's one of those where she's not afraid to get in the ring with the men, stuff like that. And you mentioned there the champion versus champion thing. I think that's called Mayhem, I believe. Is that the show?
Think so, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I've seen her, countless times in other promotions, stuff like that. Phenomenal talent. And Haney, I mean, I know she's obviously made a name, obviously in Scotland as well.
Yeah, I don't like her. She beat up my little Angel Hayes. It's not on. No, she's phenomenal. I've seen her in, obviously, seen her, it was an ICW, and she's been in BCW as well. My sort of local promotion is just down the road. So, oddly enough, I've seen her in a singles matches. What was it? And sort of like mixed tag, in East Kilbride. So, what was it? She's a sort of fun wrestler. Obviously, BCW. What was it? BCW is a more family-oriented sort of wrestling promotion, so you don't get to see that sort of real element of her in ICW. But certainly, I've seen the sort of tamed down fun side to her as well. Because obviously when you go to these family shows, it's a bit more fun for the kids and things like that. So what was it? So she's got the ability to sort of play into that as well, which is really good. So, I mean, you've basically said everything. I know she had she made an appearance I think she had one TV appearance in the NXT UK. What was it in the Battle Royal? I think that Kelly Ray won. Yeah, I don't think she's in it very long, unfortunately. But she what was it? What was it called? She was there. So. And we all know what happened there. So it's a lot of the wrestlers. None of the wrestlers' fault was what's went on there. It was a decision with COVID and.
You are correct there, by the way, Annie. She was in that Battle Royal.
Yep. I can sort of remember that. Yep. I think Kelly Ray won that one, didn't she? That was the one for the.
Yep. Kelly Ray defeats Candy Floss, Isla Dawn, Jaycee Gilbert, Ginny, Kanji, Killer Kelly, Nina Samuels, Pipe, and even Rhea Ripley and Rio and Xia Brookside.
Look at the names,
Yeah, exactly.
Insane, and she's and Rio is definitely up there with the guys. What was it? As I say to people as well, just because people aren't on, go to your local promotion and watch wrestling. Just because they aren't on television doesn't mean they aren't any good. It's just a bit. The people on the television are just a bit being in the right place at the right time, having the right look, in front of the right people. There's better out there than a lot of the people that are out on the television, and that's not to be what was it, trashing them as well. It's just she's up there with the names. What was it? You could interchange her out, with an Isla Dawn or a Kelly Ray, and she would fit right in. What was it, or Xia Brookside and things like that.
100%. So
it's phenomenal.
Jim, why don't you pick one? Pick one from the list.
Big one from the list. Oh, hang on. Let me scroll down my list. Spike Trivet.
Okay, Spike Trivet, the title men's champion and stuff like that. I've always said this, by the way, and I will stick to this comment. I've always said that Spike Trivet is underrated. Everyone talks about the big names from Red Pro, Progress, and stuff like that, but for me, Spike Trivet is a round package. Do you know what I mean? Character's great, in-ring's great, and then one of my favorite matches I saw live, and we talked about it, that men can mix it up, obviously, with the women. Go check out Spike Trivet versus Harley Hudson from Tidal in January of last year.
Brutal.
I was actually there for that. It was absolutely incredible match.
Yeah, I really like Spike Trivet. I've not seen him live, but I think we talked about him on a previous show. I think we were just talking about sort of who the sort of up and comers were at the time. And yeah, he's great. Like you say, his promo work is fantastic. He's this sort of despicable, really hateful heel character. Excuse me. But he can do it all in the ring. Like, he had a really big rivalry with Cara Noir, who, again, we've talked about in the past. And Cara Noir, I just think, a phenomenal talent.
When you can mean, you can be the antagonist wrestling a person like that. You know,
Yeah.
you're really good.
Exactly. And, he did loads to build that and mocking him and getting so much heat on him for the actual match. And he delivers in the ring as well. Like, you can check out his TikTok. There's a sequence where he's chain wrestling with Jonathan Gresham. And it's this brilliant sequence of chain wrestling. And then it finishes with Gresham sort of leaning against the ropes, and you think Trivet's going to go for the chop, and it's going to be a chop battle. But instead, he just headbutts him. And again, it's just a great heel move. It's such a subversion of what you're expecting to happen. The only thing I don't understand about him is, and we saw it on the picture there, this vulture mask thing.
Yeah.
I just don't get how that fits in with the gimmick, because the gimmick is almost like, oh, he's a bit of a geezer. But then he's got this vulture thing, and his nickname's like, the Vulture of Tidal Wrestling. I just can't square that whole how them two things fit together. But if he wants to wear a vulture mask, great. But it just doesn't add up to me.
No,
I just want to.
That's where you go, Liam.
Sorry, the only thing I will add as well is, like, when I obviously started doing the interview stuff, that guy's number one on my list. Do you know what I mean? I just love to pick his brain and stuff like that, because he's a phenomenal talent and stuff like that. Hey, I mean, we spoke about this guy countless times on the show.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? As we were sort of, what was it? Speaking about him with his character, he's such an antagonist as well with the crowds. He's just, it's fantastic to see that when you've got somebody that can just piss off people, what was it called? What was it? That's what it's all about. That's what wrestling to me is about. Is leaving an impression about the sort of character. And he's just that sort of, what was it? That sort of, what was it? I think I read he was referred to as sort of like a posh bad boy. But was an aristocratic? I can't say the word. What's it? Aristocratic antagonist. I just thought that just sums him up perfectly. What was it called? Because somebody had wrote that about him, and I thought, yeah, that sums him up perfectly.
It's sort of like the British MJF. That's the vibe I get from him.
Yeah, and there's so many good ones in the UK. I mean, as we said, what was it? He's sort of like he's. What was it? Like rivals with Kid Lycos and things like that, and Karen Orr and Mark Haskins and things. These guys can handle themselves, and they just eats them. When he starts talking, it's just great.
He's definitely up there for me in one of the top 5. Especially when it comes to promos for the UK.
Yeah. How big is he? He's about 6 foot, isn't he?
Is it about that? Yeah.
I mean, when you look at him next to Jonathan Gresham, he's a lot bigger, but then Jonathan Gresham's not the tallest wrestler, but yeah.
What was it? When I seen Gresham live, I'm like, you like, it's weird. It's totally unrelated because it's not wrestler, because you've got an image of somebody. What was it? When I seen Amy Winehouse live, right? Yeah. What was it? And you actually see her. She was so tiny, but you don't get that impression because she's got that big, massive personality and big voice, And then she come onto the stage, and there was this little tiny thing on the stage, What was it? Sometimes, like, I know we're not talking about him, but Josh Gresham just fits that, He just doesn't fit that sort of that mold. He looks like a big sort of 6-footer,
Yeah.
Exactly. Annie, do you want to pick one to talk about apart from the 2 dual champions?
What was it? Oh, geez, 2 seconds to get the list up again, because I've got my notes and my list on different things. Well, I'll do the next one if you pick one, Liam, and I'll get one pick for the next one.
Right. Okay, then we'll start with this one, shall we? We'll go with Nina Samuels. Take it away, Annie.
Sorry, are we going to? What was it? We're talking about Nina Samuels. 2 seconds.
Yep.
I'm just bringing up my notes.
How many no's you got?
You told me to do this properly.
I know. I'm winding you up.
It's got a
Yeah,
big
and
ring binder that is.
Yeah, you know, I actually used to do that. I used to have ring binders and things like that of what was it, wrestlers. So what was it? It seems a bit what was it odd to sort of say because Nina's actually the same age as me. So what was it? She'll be 45 this year. So what was it? She's been about for a little while, you know. So
Yeah,
but
debuted 2014, I think.
2014, yeah. You know, so what was it called? And she made it to the NXT brand quite quickly as well.
Mm.
You know, so what was it? Obviously, what was it? At that point, the women came out the British scene. We covered them, and what was it? A couple of comments ago about the Battle Royal. You know, what was it? We were just absolutely loaded with sort of talent. You know, so. Yeah, but was it again another sort of what was it? Sort of arrogant sort of character, you know? What was it? I think
This is like the
what was it?
female version of Spike Gervais when you think about it.
Yeah, definitely. You know, what was it called? She had a sort of great match with sort of Tony Storm in NXT UK as well. You know, so what was it? It's interesting, just a sort of full background. Unfortunately, I've not seen much of her live. You know, it's been mainly on sort of TV. So you guys could probably see a bit more because obviously, what was it? I think she wrestles more down south and what was it up here in Scotland? You know, but she's definitely been up here, and I've definitely seen her. You know, but I've only seen her at a BCW show, I believe, and I can't really use that properly to sort of judge because again, that's a sort of family show. So what was it? You know, but we all know what she's sort of like she's what she's doing. Obviously, she's in Progress Wrestling, she's in Rev Pro and things like that. So, what was it? Just great sort of wrestler. But I sort of remember from the NXT UK's time, you know, their matches with what was it, Tony Storm, and what was it? I think she had a couple with Brookside as well, you know. So, what was it? But really good.
Yeah, I mean the thing is for me, I mean one of the best images I remember is from Riot Cabaret where she come out with like I think there were like 10 belts she won across like 10 promotions and stuff like that. And Jim, it's one thing for one promotion obviously to put the trust in you as a champion, but to have 10, do you know what I mean? That speaks volumes of her as a person.
Definitely, yeah. And she's got the gimmick side down, which, you know, as we were sort of talking about earlier, that can be as important, if not more important, than the in-ring stuff. And she's tapping into sort of quite current things. Like it's almost like she's this annoying influencer gimmick, and she's got this Nina Samuels show. And there's clips from like NXT UK where she's going around backstage and she's going to interview Natalia Neidhart, and Natalia's like, "Do you even know who I am?"
Yeah,
and that gimmick's got legs, and that maybe this is why people do choose to sort of decorate her as champion, because you can drop that into any promotion and she can get it over like that. Like you can, it's enough of an archetype that even if you only see her for a few moments, you can buy into that gimmick straight away, and you know this is the bad guy, this is who we're going to boo for, and that'll get you a long way. It gives you a lot of versatility when you do move from promotion to promotion. And I think probably she benefited from that stint in NXT UK because the WWE is very good at the gimmicks and how you present them on TV. And if she's learned a bit of that there, and she's now bringing that to the British independents, that's fantastic.
I've actually got. I'm just looking up. I've actually got a birth year wrong. What was it? She's a bit younger than I thought. She was born in '88. What was it? I don't know where I get 80 from. Must have been on a sort of thingy. But unless I've put a typo in. But yeah, the reason I'm bringing that up again is unfortunately, I think we've sort of spoke about this in the past. I think unfortunately, what was it? The sort of age thing is not as forgiving But on the women, it is the men. So what was it? It's harder for them to break in. What was it? I think if you're sort of breaking into the industry, what was it? What was it? In your late 20s, early 30s, then I think there's so much prejudice that what was it? They go with the
Yeah.
younger women, whereas what was it? You've got these guys like Tom Jens, who obviously he was about the sort of UK scene and the European scene for like 15 years before he even became Alistair Black, sort of thing, and what was it? The men get that opportunity, the women don't, unfortunately, So what was it? Like I said before, just because these people are in a local scene, go see them. Absolutely phenomenal, you know.
100%. So, Jim, pick another one.
Who have we got left? Let's have a look. What about Leon Slater?
Leon Slater, North Wrestling's champion and stuff like that. I mean, Leon's one of the best things I like about Slater is he's grinded to get where he is. I mean, we obviously spoke about it earlier on with the 1PW stuff. That's obviously not around for obvious reasons, but when I went to obviously like shows like Rev Pro, he was always there. Do you know what I mean? Learning and stuff like that, and that obviously gained him like the TNA thing now, and he's doing so great. And even now, we still see him up and down the UK.
Yes, that really surprised me. I mean, like you say, I first saw him in 1PW. He was teaming with man like Darius, and he just had something. He's very young. He'll be what, 21 now, something like that. 21, 22 maybe.
Yeah.
So he's right at the start of it, but he's accomplished. He's great in the ring. You can see the influence of AJ Styles, Will Ospreay, that he's of that kind of ilk, but he's got it at a very, very young age.
No, you're putting me off him now. Sorry.
So, well, I'm sorry, but there's an influence there, whether you like it or not. And he shone in that. TNA have obviously snapped him up, which it surprised me to see that he was still being allowed to do the independents, because obviously traditionally WWE doesn't let their talents do the independents. If TNA is a bit more lenient, I think that's brilliant. But now that there's this relationship between TNA and WWE, it's a bit of a double-edged sword for Leon, because maybe that'll mean he'll have less chance to do the indies, but also it'll mean that he's on the WWE radar, and you could see him slotting in there absolutely, tomorrow. The only thing that I feel like he's missing is a strong identity and gimmick of his own. Like, there is a lot of young wrestlers who are really good at wrestling, and I'm not saying that he's not one of the standouts of that. He absolutely is. But young wrestler who's good at wrestling isn't enough to take you to that next step. And sort of when he was in a team with man like Darius has got his 0121, and he's got the gimmick. And Leon, as part of the tag team, sort of had that, and he kind of adopted bits of it into his own act. But I want to see him have something of his own. Like, we've seen it so many times where he's the rookie, and the rookie comes in and the rookie does well. Ask John Cena how well that went. You need something else, and he's only really, really young. I've no doubt he will find it, and that this guy he could be one of the breakthrough British international stars. He could be like you Will Ospreay, like you Davey Boy Smith. He could be that guy. I think the sky is the limit with him.
Okay, Annie, over to you.
But was it? I'm a bit more reserved about. I think he's a fantastic talent. I just think there's so many of his type and his style in wrestling now, particularly floating about NXT, TNA, and DEW. You know, but where do you sort of fit that in? What was it? And how do you again? How do you? What was it? Get that? You use the word identity and what was it? And personality. You know, you can have all this. You can have all the skills in the world. You could be. What was it? You could be as great as, but was it a wrestler as Bret Hart, but you could have zero personality like Bret Hart had for a long time, you know. So, what was it? And it's hard because I think, what was it? For me, his style of wrestling is all too common now. He's a bit different because he's one of the taller guys. He's over 6 foot, so you know, so that might be to his benefit. What was it? I think TNA is a great place for him. What was it called? What was it? It'll just be interesting to sort of see where he is and where he's able to go with it. You know, obviously he's a fantastic talent, but what was it? For me, it's a bit different with the girls. What was it? I think because if they can break through, you know, and get a. It seems like a terrible thing to say. They can get a fan base away from their sort of wrestling, you know, because guys will be guys, you know, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I love the female wrestling, and I don't want to disrespect that. On the flip side to that, with the guys, I think it's just your Donald Duck whether or not you're the one that gets the breakthrough guy, and I think he really needs that personality to sort of break through. But in the short amount of time he's been out, he's a phenomenon. You know, he's great at what he does. You know, what was it? I'm not a big fan of that style. So what was it? I'm probably the wrong person to sort of talk about it.
But the thing is, that's the whole point why you're here, man. Do you know what I mean? We're all not going to agree on absolutely everything. That's just obviously the nature of wrestling.
As long as we can agree by the end of it that I'm right and you're all wrong, I'm fine with that.
Right, let's move along, shall we? I'm going to throw this one in because I'm just looking now at this person's career because this is someone who's come on my radar more recently. And it's, of course, the Kingdom Wrestling Champion. I don't know, is that Kiara? Is that how we're saying it?
Kiara, yeah.
Now, the weird thing is, I'm just looking who trained in, ain't it? Lance Storm and Robbie Brookside. You don't get better than that, really.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get better than that. I mean, you could pick one or the other, you know.
I noticed that as well.
It's like, I mean, what was it? If you were going to pick one, what was it? If you were going to pick one guy to like train you, and you had the top 5, that'd be like one of the top 5 guys that you would probably that you would you would pick.
Yeah, exactly, Jim.
Yeah, she's another one who's got the character side of it absolutely figured out. She's got this very posh upper class character, and they play I can't remember exactly what piece of music it is, but it sounds like the opening to Downton Abbey or something as she's coming out, and she's billed as being from Cambridge University, and she's the lady of high society, and she wrestles this great cowardly heel character where she's trying to avoid them constantly, and she's rolling out of the ring and she's putting herself in the ropes so they have to break it. But she's got that great thing where as soon as there's an opening, she'll go in with a kick and everything. So she's absolutely got the character work. She's another one where she will get the boos straight away. You get it. She's got this aloof, I'm too good for this approach to it all. And as you say, trained by Lance Storm, Robbie Brookside, she's clearly got the wrestling pedigree there. She's got the fundamentals. She's another one who really, really could go places. And she's been wrestling, 7 years? So she's probably just sort of got the reps behind her now and coming into it. So she's another one who, again, she could go as high as you can do. She just needs, like Alec was saying, she just needs to be in the right place at the right time to get through.
Exactly. So we've got quite a few more to get through, so I'm going to try and win through this next one.
Yeah, sorry, you did sort of mention as well. She's sort of been involved in quite a few intergender matches as well, which is you know. So what was it? She's been able to sort of, what was it, handle herself in that ring, you know. So she's no slouch in the ring, you know.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And like I said, I'm just looking through a whole thing now. It's just incredible. Do you know what I mean? So we'll get the other young talent out, and this everywhere I look in wrestling, this name gets mentioned all the time, and I'm talking about Maddie Morgan. Jim, I mean, 17 years old. Do you know what I mean? I've seen her obviously. You can't. I mean, 17 years old, LWF champion. She's won it. That's the first title win and stuff like that. But the thing is, yep, she is 17. But the thing is, for me, I do see little. I won't say slip ups, but I still think she's a little bit green. But I do like her in ring work.
Yeah, I mean, she is green, but by definition, I mean, she only debuted last year. But if you look at her cage match, she's got a hell of a lot of matches under her belt already, you know. She's getting there. She's 17, but she doesn't carry herself like a 17-year-old. She looks like someone who belongs in the ring. She's got high flying moves. She's great with a moonsault. Again, check out her TikTok. She's done intergender matches. There's one where she takes a hell of a spear. I don't know if she'd upset someone or something. Not quite as bad as what were his name at the Royal Rumble, but
I Show Speed.
That was a receipt. That was a receipt. That wasn't a spear. That was a receipt. Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not a million miles away. But yeah, like you say, 17 years old, lot of matches under her belt already. She's already a champion. Yeah, she's a bit green, but she is very, very early in her career. So if she carries on the way she's going, there's time for all that to go away.
Yeah, she's got no right having that amount of confidence, you know, at that young age.
No.
You know, what was it? But yeah, but was it the first thing that comes to mind is Saraya with this girl? You know, what was it? There's the buzz. You know, you sort of hear it. You know, and she was very green. Although she was wrestling, so she was like 13. She was very green as well. You know, what was it? Until like even though like she had sort of high standard. You know. What was it? I think in Saraya's case, what was it? The two brothers got a WWE audition, and she went along, and she ended up getting pulled over them. You know, I think I remember the documentary. But what was it called? And one of the brothers has a bit of boo-boo face, but we won't talk about that. What was it? But yeah, what was it? Young star. Not seen much of her. Just heard the name and seen some stuff online. So I'm sure what was it? Yeah. Sure, soon enough she'll be up in Scotland.
She's actually already been in Scotland, and I'm just looking now. She was at PBW against Angel Hayes in 25 recently.
What one's that?
PBW.
Oh yeah, okay. You know, well, she must be due up then.
She and the weird thing is, I'm surprised you didn't know that because she lost to Angel Hayes.
Yeah, I've missed that one. Was that recent?
8th of the 3rd.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, there you go. So if people want to go watch that first title win, it's on the LWF, website, free match and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And when she wins it, it's just the emotions after. Can you think? You just, like I said, you can never overlook the 17 thing. But like I said, the confidence thing she's got, incredible talent. She's going to go places. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it always baffles me to think, God, I was a mess when I was 17. Like, I can't even conceive of being able to have that much of a handle on this is what I want to do and I'm going to be good at it. At that age, it just absolutely baffles me. But yeah, good on her.
Yeah, and the good on her. But again, as you said, we talked about the sort of green thing, and she's obviously following the sort of same sort of path that sort of Leon Slater did with that at that young age, you know. So hopefully this is setting a trend for what's coming out of the UK. But what was it? As we got into the beginning of this before we started talking about that. Sometimes less is more, and like you don't need to do all the high flying fancy stuff, you know. You're only going to hurt yourself eventually, you know. What was it? Slow it down. But definitely.
Exactly. Right, so we've got 4 more to get through. So, James, should we do Miles Kamen or Scotty Rourke next?
Scotty Rourke.
Scotty Rourke, BWR champion. He's 300 over a year, I think it is. BWR is actually happening today as well, so remains to be seen if he's still going to be champion. But one thing I like about Scotty Rourke as well is we saw him a lot more like in tag matches, 6-pack challenge and stuff like that. But now we're getting to see him more as a person out of that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I saw him in Tidal, seen him at BWR. And the crowd reaction is one of the biggest things I noticed straight away. The guy's just so over with the crowd.
Yeah, he's got a fantastic look. Not dissimilar to Malachi / Alistair Black. You know, he's got that covered in tattoos, heavy metal sort of look to him, which always gets over. Like, it gets over with the metalheads because they're like, hey, he's one of us. And it gets over with the non-metalheads because they're like, oh, that's a bit different. So he's always going to be eye-catching. Like, if a wrestler comes out and he's covered in tattoos, it draws your eye. It stands out. I know a lot of wrestlers have tattoos, but not to the extent that a Scotty Rourke or a Malachi Black does. So he's always going to have an interesting look to him. Again, he's got, and this speaks to a little bit some of the things we have been talking about, but he does wrestle that modern hybrid style. So you do see a fair bit of high flying. You see a lot of showy sort of moves from him. But I do think there's more to him than that. I think he can do a bit of chain wrestling. He can bring it down onto the mat. He's just got a great, like you said there, Liam, he's just got a great aura to him. He's got the it factor that they talk about. And like I've seen him again, saw him at 1PW, but like they brought him into True Grit and it had that feel of like True Grit feels like a promotion that's on sort of the ascendancy at the moment. It's getting gradually a bit bigger, but it felt like an occasion that, oh, True Grit must be doing all right if they can bring a Scotty Rourke in. So he's got a standing within the British independent scene that he's recognisable as someone who he's known as a good worker. He's known as one of the bigger stars. So, yeah, I really like him.
One thing I like as well about Scotty Rourke as well is he's always in that world title picture. Do you know what I mean? I noticed that when I was looking at his cage match. You know what I mean? You mentioned it there. He was in the title picture for True Grit. I know he's in the title picture for wrestling in Newcastle. I'm sure there's a lot more. Like I said, there's a current BWR champion. Do you know what I mean? So he's always in that title picture. So he's always up there.
He's got legitimacy. You can drop him in as a legit title contender, and it's totally believable. Yeah,
100%. Sorry, Henry.
No, I was just going to say, you were saying, but was it that sort of larger than, sort of, we were talking about that larger than life. He's quite a short wrestler though, isn't he? He's about 5'9", you know. But you look at a picture of him, he doesn't look like he's got big stature, you know. But yeah, that's not a sort of criticism. There's many like that, you know. So, but he's definitely that sort of like reliable sort of guy that, you know, if you need somebody to do a job, then he's the guy to do it, you know. So, a bit of a pit bull.
And he's also involved in one of the scariest moments I witnessed as a wrestling fan, which was BWR last year. I was in the balcony type thing, and then they were fighting outside of me, and he kicked somebody off. I was literally at the side of it, and I could not look. And you know what? My heart was in my mouth. Honest to God, it's one of the most memorable things I remember as a wrestling fan. Crazy as all. But anyway, right. So before
mine's was Eva Marie debuted. I mean, she was just such a great wrestler.
Anyway, Haney, moving on. Right. So before we get obviously to the two dual champions and stuff like that, we've got one more to talk about, and it's NGW's champion Miles Kamen. Now, again, it's weird because I've seen this guy, you know, do so much. I've had him on the show and stuff like that. His entrance music speaks volumes, but it still baffles me how young he is. And to be, like I said, NGW's been around for absolute quite a while and stuff like that. Been in the ring with some incredible talent. I don't know, man. I cannot speak highly enough about Miles Kamen, to be honest.
I mean, when I last saw him, he was dressed as Harry Potter. So this is what we were talking about earlier about how you can have you can play a different character in different promotions. So I'm going to leave you guys to talk about Miles Kamen, the serious wrestler,
He is a
because
bit of a cosplayer, isn't he?
yeah, like I've seen him going back to our mate Wing Commander Nash. Like he wrestles as Miles and Miles' dad for Rise, and every event they have a different gimmick. So they've been the Mario brothers, Mario and Luigi, and the one I saw, he was Harry Potter, and Wing Commander Nash was Dobby, and so they wrestled a tag match earlier in the night, and everyone was chanting "Darby, Darby, Darby." And even though Miles is, he's a champion, whatnot, but everyone wanted him to. He was the one who took the beat down to get the hot tag into Dobby, which was when Commander Nash who came in, and then they came back in. It finished with like the Rise Rumble. So they came back and they both wrestled in that as well, and everyone was chanting Dobby and Harry Potter and Expelliarmus, and so he's obviously a guy who's got a sense of humor as well. That he does his serious wrestling, but he also has a bit of fun in Rise playing this. I think cosplay is the right word that you use there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly fun, but again, especially if you're going to like a family promotion as well, where you sort of integrate some of that. It's always sort of good to see. It's
Or Rise into family promotion.
No, it's not.
I know. I know. I'm just speaking in general when you're sort of
Yes,
like doing fun stuff. But what was it? I mean, but was unfortunately, but was it? I mean, this is sort of what was it? I've not seen him. I've not seen him live, but certainly a lot of the time when a lot of these great wrestlers from down south come up, instantly they're booed because they're English. What was it called? It's just that thing. That annoying thing. That what was it called? So when I go to sort of BCW shows, what was it when if you do get a guy like coming out, you don't get to see their full character anyway. So because because it's a family show, and B instantly. What was it? The England Scotland thing, which is sort of silly, because what was it? Last year, it was the night after. It was the night after the. Was it the England's? What was it? The England final that they lost, and it was Daz Black and somebody else, right? And they were just going at it, but they were all cheering Daz Black, and they don't realise that Daz is actually from England. It was just weird. But it was because he's beloved. Wrestling's such a funny sort of thing, But yeah. So what was it? I was reading about this guy. His debut match was against Kip Sabian, So I mean, what was it? Come on, So if you're putting up against a guy like that, you're either what was it? You're either good or or you're you're pulling a couple of favours. So the fact that he's still around probably tells you how good he is, So and he had sort of what was it? Just looking into it. So obviously he faced Kip Sabian. He also had he's wrestled. What was it? Gabriel Kidd as well, who's obviously we know what he is. So what was it called?
I think didn't Kip Sabian actually train him?
I don't know.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. What was it? That's something I've not found a reliable source for of finding out who trained who. Obviously, you'd be a bit more. What was it? Sort of knowing that as well, So, obviously, what was it?
I think Cage Match tells you, and I think it's Kevin. I know Nathan Cruz is another one.
Yeah,
So,
but as you say, is regular like having these high profile matches. The match with what was a high Mark Haskins as well, So, what was it? Great guy, So what was it? Usually know a bit more about him. Unfortunately, from my standpoint, I've not seen overly too much of him other than sort of videos, and it's hard to sort of judge.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So we've got two more topics to talk about, and let's obviously talk about this guy, and then we'll end obviously with this one. Of course, Brady Phillips, True Grit, and obviously Wrestling Newcastle champion, defeated Wesley and Jericho to win the title at True Grit Redemption. He became the first ever Wrestling in Newcastle champion, successful title defenses against people like Martin Kirby, Kemper, Kegstacker, Dar Diablo, and more. Jim, I mean, before we came on the air and I told you about it, I mean, a lot of people still don't know who this guy is, but I feel like he's really, really underrated.
Yeah, I like Brady Phillips. I saw him in True Grit before he won the championship, but you could tell that they were prepping him for it. Like they were having him wrestle different people, but showing that he can wrestle different styles. Like they'd have a match where he's going against power guys. They'd have a match where he's going against fast guys. They'd have a match where he's wrestling a really sort of traditional British kind of catch can thing. And it was almost like they were auditioning him for, you're going to be the champion, show us that you can do it all. And I think he can. Like, he's an imposing presence. He's a big guy. He, in True Grit at least, he usually has Ivy as a valet, and she's just an absolute heat magnet. She's got a great way with the crowd. Like, I mean, she scares me a little bit. She's been sort of in my face, just screaming, and you know when
What's
you
her
have
name?
that thing, Ivy.
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 I think she's his real life partner.
Yes.
And you know, you have that thing sometimes with wrestlers where you're like, I know what the deal is with wrestling. You're a wrestler, so I know you know what the deal is with wrestling. But you know, when for a second you think, is she going to actually hit me here? Like, does she know this ain't real? Anyway, and that's Ivy. But yeah, so he can draw his own heat, but she can really draw the heat to him. And it's a great double act that they have.
Did I ever tell you sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did I ever tell you the stories of what happened when I bought the 8x10s from both of them?
No.
So obviously I like to collect the 8x10s, and I ordered it from I think it's their Big Cartel website. And the Brady Phillips one, it's really crazy. This is, obviously, I always say a message of your choosing, so it gives them opportunity to write what they want. And Brady Phillips actually wrote next True Grit champion. And do you know the crazy thing was? He actually was. It was actually the week prior. And then the Ivy one, I think she said, you know, it's typical Ivy. And I think you said, I think I sent it to you. I think she put something along the lines, I hate. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He literally wrote the words, I hate you.
She's very in character, isn't she? She's great.
Let me just go and grab it. 2 seconds. It's all over here. Carry on.
Yeah, so I really like Brady. Since winning the championship, he's been sort of going through the contenders. He had a great match with Dara Diablo, great match with Kemper. I think he's had 2 matches now with Usyk. So they had him do this thing before he won the championship, which was show us what you can do. But now it seems to be show us what you can do again. Show us that you're worthy of keeping the championship.
There we go.
That. Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that.
Can't see what the writing. No.
It actually says the future True Grit champion, which is still. It was like the week prior he won it.
There you go, then.
Let me see if I can find the
from?
I actually don't know. Anyone know where he's from?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, no. One thing I will say about his look, and I'm sure this is deliberate because he's playing a heel, and I appreciate I'm the last person to talk about what anybody does with the hair, but he has a very sort of 90s hairstyle. Like, it's almost like the curtains that we all had. I mean, even I had curtains in the 90s. I had hair in the 90s. And I think that's deliberate to get heel heat.
I don't know if you can see that.
I can just about see it, yeah.
Thank you,
Ivy.
Sorry, where were we?
I was talking about Brady's hair, that I feel like he's got a deliberately sort of 1990s hairdo. And I think that's part of his drawing heat, that he's got an unfashionable, uncool hairdo. But as I say, I'm the last person to comment on anyone's hair, but I'm only doing so because I feel it's part of his wrestling presentation.
Okay, Ernie, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? I can only really go on what you guys are saying because I've not overly seen too much of this chap, unfortunately. So, but again, watch the matches and things like that. But it's hard to sort of pick up because you see the matches, but you're obviously talking about other elements to the way he interacts with the crowd and things like that, and that's something you don't get from television either, you know. So, yeah, I need to check out more.
That's absolutely
Sorry,
fine.
guys.
No, it's absolutely fine, mate. I mean, that's the whole point you're here. Do you know what I mean? You can give that perspective, and if you don't know much, that's fine. Do you know what I mean? That's what wrestling is.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, what was it? If I don't know, I'm not going to bullshit you, you know. So,
I mean, this I would say ask you to be part of the experiment we're doing next week, which is you basically researching a promotion, see how much you can find out.
yeah, exactly. You know, and what was it called? And it's great getting this sort of what was it? A perspective as well, because this is something I used to do when I was younger as portfolio wrestlers. You know, just sit with a notepad and find out what I could on my old sort of 56K modem.
Dear. Right then, so we've got one more to talk about now. Jim, we know as wrestling fans, the two biggest promotions in the UK is Progress and Rev Pro. Do you know what I mean? It's facts. Annie, I don't know if you know that as well.
That's a complete lie, and I'm actually appalled at that opinion. Sorry, yeah, but on you go.
Now, there's only one person, obviously, in the UK who's actually the main champion for both, and I'm talking about
Even Marie.
Luke Jacobs defeated Michael Oko at Rev Pro Uprising, defeated Kid Like Us at the Devil on My Shoulder, successful title defenses against Connor Mills, Tate Mayfairs, Eddie Dennis, and then we spoke about Leon Slater and many more. I mean, Jim, to be the champion of over to the top two promotion, that says it all. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? It shows that he's the man in British wrestling at the moment. Again, I saw him back in 1PW, and he was sort of in the middle of the card, I'd say. I think if that promotion had have run a bit longer, they were probably trying to tell a bit of a longer term story with him and move him up. But even then, he was good at draw. I'm using the phrase a lot, but he was good at drawing the heat. He was good at getting the crowd to boo him, which works when you like we've talked about it on other shows. Like I always prefer it when you've got a heel champion and he has got good heel energy. And like you say, the fact that he's recognized by the two biggest promotions simultaneously just shows that he's made it. And you look at his list of opponents, like it's
Allegedly,
yeah. It's a who's who, not just of British wrestling, but international wrestling. Like he's had matches against Will Ospreay, against Tomohiro Ishii. He's had a match against Kenta. Talked about Michael Oko, about Leon Slater. You know, he has been in there with some of the best, and he's kept his own. You know, he's held up against them, and he's just continued to grow and grow as a performer. He is still very, very young, but he's made it. You know, it's in terms of British wrestling, I don't know where else there really is for him to go. He's good at promos as well. Like I watched some of his promo videos where he's talking about British wrestling, and it's almost like blurring the lines between real and kayfabe. Like he's talking about, I'm sick of seeing the promotions bringing in the international talents. I want to show that the British homegrown talent is what it's all about. And he mentioned a couple of times he wants to be the first ever unified British champion, which practically you're never going to do because there are that many promotions and we don't have a territory system properly. So it's not like that can ever happen. But if he wants to tour and win all these different belts that we've talked about, that could be interesting. And sorry, go on.
I mean, to me, what was it? To me, the biggest championship in the UK is BCW Championship, because let's look at the alumni. You've had what was it? Drew McIntyre. You've had Sheamus. You know, both WrestleMania main eventers. You know, so that's really, to me, is the creme de la creme of titles. You know,
Maybe
It's
that's
definitely
the-
up there, Henny. I get where you're coming from that and stuff like that. And the only
maybe
reason I say
that's
that
the next one he should
Yeah.
go for.
and he
Then.
needs to come up here. At least come up to Scotland and face Grado, for crying out loud. You know. No, but was
dear.
it, I mean, in all serious, I'm just lacking about. So obviously, what was it? He was, from what I've read, I believe he trained under the Grizzly Young Vets. You know, so what was it called? What a sort of starting a business. You know, to have the guys sort of guidance. You know, is it Future Shock Wrestling that they have in Manchester?
Yes.
Yes. What was it called? So what was it? You know, what was it? I mean, it speaks volumes. He's beaten guys like Big Damo and what was it, Bronson Reed, you know, on the way to win that sort of, what was it, what was it, Progress Atlantis Championship, you know? So what was it, what was it, these are names that have synonymous with, what was it, with British wrestling and international wrestling, you know? So, what was it, and these guys are big guys, and he's in there handling himself, so that tells you how good he is, you know?
I mean, look at
but-
Ishii. Do you know what I mean? New Japan Star and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I've actually seen that match, and he managed to hold his song really, really well.
Yeah. But was it I mean, definitely when you're in the ring with these sort of big guys, and that's what's sort of lacking in wrestling now, is these big guys, you know. What was it? What was it? You know, so what was it, when you've got that sort of like, we had that sort of mix of, like, you haven't got that sort of William Regal sort of British character out there in America now either, you know. What was it? Because he's a bit of an all rounder. So what was it? It's It'll be interesting to see where he goes. But was it? I don't like. I don't mean this. I don't mean this sort of sort of against him either, because again, I'm just speaking from like a perspective of, but was it how I see things in wrestling. But was it, where do these guy like them? How does this? I'm not saying he can't, but how does a guy like this fit into going over to America and trying to get into EW and or WWE? Because that's not the style of wrestler either these companies are going for. Is it a case where you'll need to go to like a TNA or what was it, get a run in New Japan? You know, New Japan love the British guys as well. You know, so what was it? How do these guys with all this potential, you know, get seen? You know, what was it? I'm not meaning this in a criticism in any way of any sort of guys we've spoken about. What was it? I'm just speaking from a perspective of how sort of what was it? What was it? Like, for want of a better way of putting it, the indie scene in America's dead. I think, you know, you don't really hear about American indie wrestlers coming up now. They all seem to be from like South America or Canada or over in Europe. You know, how do these guys transition over? Because again, there is a sort of stigma is the wrong word. There is a sort of like, but was it disadvantage to sort of these? You mentioned the word that he wants to be the British champion, and he's fed up with these foreigners coming over. But was it, how does that transition the other way? You know, it was because there is that
I
sort
see where
of
you're coming
stigma
from
of,
with that.
yeah, there is that sort of stigma of how do these like British wrestlers who have got all this talent, who are better than a lot of the talent that's over there, break through? You know,
It's a question of what's the next step. Like, this is a guy who is at the peak that you can reach in the UK, and it's where do you go as a pro wrestler from there? Like, there isn't really anything more you can do on the UK scene unless the UK scene is all of a sudden going to get a TV deal and go bigger and bigger and bigger, which is probably unlikely. Like you say, the next step is, if you want to be bigger in the wrestling world, you either
Yeah.
go to America or you go to Japan.
I mean, we're making the assumption that he wants to do that. He might be happy doing what he's doing, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that either.
Mm.
I mean, for me, obviously, we've joked. Well, I was like selling this. I know Progress is the biggest promotion, and like it's probably controversial. So people were like pro and things like that. But I know Progress is the biggest promotion in the UK. You know, it's looked upon that way, in Scotland as well. What was it? It's very interesting to sort of what was it make this. Well, we can assume that they want to go over there, you know, and break through, you know, but what was it there's nothing wrong with creating a sort of a career just over in the UK.
No, not at all.
I mean, we talk about the WWE and EW being the big two. At the end of the day, they're just a wrestling promotion. They're no
Mhm.
any different. They've just got more money, you know. What was it? And I would say there's more prestige and what was it, integrity in some of these independent companies championships than there are in the EW championships and the WWE championships, because they give them out like candy over there, you know. Whereas what was it? You know, if you go to like a Progress show and you see a championship change hands, you know it's been worked on, you know, and that person's earned that spot, you know. But was it there's that sort of old territory sort of element to it, you know, even though we don't have that sort of world of sport anymore.
No, exactly. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the thing is with this as well, I mean, we could have had so many people on this list, and we are looking to do obviously follow-ups and stuff like that. So part 2, part 3, and so on and so on. So we will be putting a post out for a part 2 of this. So comment, guys. You know what I mean? What champions do you want us to talk about? It doesn't matter what promotion they work for. It doesn't matter how much experience they've got. Jim, do you know what I mean? We'll talk about absolutely any champion, won't we?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, like I said, stay tuned, obviously, on the Instagram. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a post up there anyway. We have got a list. But again, like I said, any champions, even like from Scotland, Haney, do you know what I mean? We will happily talk, because, like I said, we spent an hour talking about some incredible champions and stuff like that. And I want to end, obviously, on something positive. I mean, Jim, when it comes to the UK scene and the champions and stuff like that, it's just absolute stack, let's be honest.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the people we've talked about tonight, as we've said, a lot of them are world class, and it is a shame that it isn't as easily accessible as it could be, British wrestling. I mean, I know a lot of them are getting sort of deals with Triller TV, it used to be Fight TV, so there are ways of accessing it, but you've kind of got to go out of your way to do it. And there's a lot of good work being done out there, not just in the bigger promotions like we've talked about, but yeah, in the smaller promotions as well. And as we said, a lot of the wrestlers, even though some of them have a home promotion, if you like, they do move around, so it's quite easy to catch. The majority of people we've talked about, check your sort of local listings, check your social media and everything, and you can probably see most of these people up and down the country.
And the
sorry,
other thing about
you've said that obviously throughout this whole show. Do you know what I mean? Go and support your local promotions.
and it's not just about like going and experiencing the wrestlers as well. There's friendships to be had out there, meeting people. You know, the UK what was it the UK scene is so friendly. You know, it's everybody's there to enjoy themselves. It's like-minded people, and what was it people are like, if you're a regular at an event, you'll get picked up, you know, and they'll start interacting with you in that as well, you know. But was it, and you'll meet amazing people, not just wrestlers but fans in the crowd, you know. But was it that's something, that social element of wrestling is not talked about enough, you know. But was
True.
You know, but was it because oddly, wrestling fans seems to have a taste in the very similar things, whether it be video games or music or what was it you know, what was it like even stuff like movies, you know. Once you start to talk to them, you know, and relate to them, you know, and what was it, open up. I remember having a conversation with somebody what was it, a sort of WWE event about horror movies, because we started talking about Bray. You know, we were just standing in the queue, and we just started talking about horror movies. You know, and it all came from a conversation about Bray's love for things. So, to me, that's what wrestling is about. It's about community as well.
Exactly.
And
And the thing is, and to obviously balance what you just said there, Hayden, I mean, I obviously went to promotions. I obviously got to know Jim. Obviously got to know yourself. Do you know what I mean? This is how the podcast has obviously been, born and stuff like that. And like I said, I mean, interviews and stuff like that. I mean, traveling obviously up and down the UK, seeing all these talent and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like you said there. Do you know what I mean? It's that all these little elements what make up just like the whole community.
Definitely, it was 100%. It was, if we can make it a better positive place, what was it? Wrestling's such a fun place to be and enjoy. When you get into the community, what was it? You don't have that toxic element of what was it? Like the big promotions when you're in an independent scene. Everybody loves thing, and I know what was it? Like up here, we've had some great wrestlers. I'll quickly mention a name that I think it's sad and unfortunate that he just missed the whole big change, and that was Lionheart, Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know that name, maybe, but was it? But I employ you to. There's actually a great documentary somebody's made, but it's on YouTube about him. But I mean, he was down in Preston. It was at Championship Wrestling and that as well, and it was. It was just months away from exploding again, and obviously what was it? We don't know what happened, but it's just he was so well respected, and what was it called? And I learned about Lionheart about being down in Preston Championship Wrestling before I even heard he was like up here in Scotland. I knew he was Scottish in Scotland in the ICW or the BCW, so it's weird.
Exactly. I mean, we could still rant on obviously for another hour, guys, and stuff like that. But
I can rant for an hour I can rant for 2 hours. You want me going back to my EW rant?
No, not really. I don't want to stay for another hour. Do you know what I mean? Jim, before we do our outro, my man, is there anything you'd like to plug?
No, not got a right lot going on at the moment. If anyone's at the Sci-Fi Weekend next weekend, I will be down there.
Of course. We've also got a lot of interviews coming up next week. We've got the owner from Fight Factory. We've got Joe Wade. We've got the Table for Free with Scott Bell, Katie, and Ross. That's obviously all there. And Haney, of course, next week we've got your findings from the research.
Yes, hopefully I don't make an absolute arse of myself.
But no, the thing is, the idea for that is how much information can you find out just on the basis of a promotion's name? Do you know what I mean? It's more of an experiment type thing. So don't.
Oh, I know. It's all about having fun, and that was experience something new. Yes, definitely.
No, absolutely. Jim, as your host and stuff like that, do you know what? I'm going to let you do the outro. So you can say anything you want, my man. We'll roll the outro.
Oh, don't talk about putting me on the spot. Okay, well, no, it's been great to be on, and like I said earlier on, do keep an eye out for some of the people we've talked about, and as Haney said, support your local promotions. There's a lot of good talent out there, there's a lot of good wrestling out there, and there's a lot of good people out there.
There we go. Thanks for watching, guys.